Good evening and welcome to the Harris County Flood Control District's virtual community engagement meeting to discuss the preliminary engineering report for Cedar Bayou tributaries Q134 and Q134-01. This virtual meeting is being held by the Flood Control District to share vital information with the community. My name is Sheldon Brigham and I'm with the Flood Control District communications team. I am joined tonight by a team of Flood Control District leadership and subject matter experts to ensure we continue to keep you up to date on these important flood mitigation projects in your community. We're also joined by staff from area elected officials, offices, and community associations. We're glad to see all of the community so engaged in these projects, and we look forward to continuing to share updates and keeping you all in the community involved. And we have a special message to start us off.
Thank you and good evening, everybody. I'm Adrian Garcia, Harris County Precinct 2 Commissioner. First, let me thank the Harris County Flood Control District for hosting this event. But before we begin, I want to send a sincere thank you to every one of you for joining us this evening. I know that we're all still working through the impacts of this pandemic, and my hope is that you and your families are safe. If you haven't already done so, please consider getting vaccinated. If you are hesitant, I understand, but I encourage you to please speak to your doctor or medical expert to help answer any questions or concerns that you may have, and hopefully this will convince you to get vaccinated. If you are already vaccinated, then I thank you, and I ask you to please be an ambassador of the vaccine. Let your family, friends, coworkers, and neighbors know that you have been vaccinated and that they should as well. This is how we can end this pandemic and help save lives. My office is hosting ongoing vaccination events throughout Precinct 2. If you're looking for a place to get vaccinated, be sure to call my office or follow our Harris County Precinct 2 social media pages. My team is updating those on a daily basis. If you are in need of help to pay your rent for your home or apartment because of the pandemic, please call my call center at 713-274-2222 to get more information about Harris County's rental assistance program. Now let me transition to what brings us here this evening. We are here to talk about the Cedar Bayou Tributaries Channel Conveyance Improvements Project. This is one of the many flood mitigation projects happening in Precinct 2 aimed at improving our drainage systems to help minimize the impact of major rain events, keeping you, your family, your property, and our communities safe. The total estimated cost of this phase of the project is $22 million, which is being paid for through the 2018 bond program. Quality infrastructure is not only my responsibility as a county commissioner, but it is also one of my top priorities because it makes you and your community safer. This is why I've directed my team with taking action and demonstrating real progress to address our community's needs. These projects make a difference and make us better prepared to weather the next storm. We know that residents along the Cedar Bayou tributaries have experienced flooding due to low channel conveyance and overflow during major rain events, including Hurricane Ike, Tropical Storm Allison, and of course, record levels during Hurricane Harvey. This project is intended to help prevent a repeat of those events. The proposed improvement recommendations will reduce flooding within the watershed and contain the flow within the channel for frequent storm events. Through implementation, the improvements will assist in more effective drainage through the neighborhoods and complement the work that my office is doing to improve neighborhood drainage systems, as well as those proposed by the Harris County Flood Control District. For example, in 2020, my office accomplished 1.2 million linear feet of neighborhood drainage maintenance. On average, Precinct 2 has only done 400,000 linear feet. But during the height of the pandemic, my team remained focused to keep you and your home safe. This year, we're on track to do another 1.2 million linear feet. My team and I are working hard to do all we can to keep your homes and businesses from being flooded yet again. I hope you continue to stay engaged in this process. It's important to remember that your voice, your experiences, and your opinions do matter. Again, we're thankful that you've joined us tonight. Please continue to be safe. And if you already have not gotten your vaccine, please consider doing so. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. This virtual public meeting will begin with a presentation to share project updates, including the results of the preliminary engineering analysis for flood reduction along the Q134 tributary. The presentation will be followed by a virtual question and answer session with Flood Control District team members. Attendees will be able to submit comments and questions through the website or by phone. Any comments not addressed during the Q&A will receive a response from the Flood Control District after the close of the comment period. Instructions on how you can participate in this virtual meeting are included on this slide. They're on the virtual meeting webpage, and they're also on the Flood Control District's website. I will also share a reminder of these instructions when we reach the Q&A portion of tonight's meeting. We will now transition to Terry Barr, Program Advisor for the Bond Implementation Management Team, who will share information about the Flood Control District and then more about this project. Terry, over to you.
All right, thank you, Sheldra. Special thanks to each of you for joining us tonight. On behalf of the Harris County Flood Control District, I'd like to welcome you to the virtual public meeting for the Q134 Preliminary Engineering Report, or PER. My name is Terry Barr, and as Sheldra said, I'm the Program Advisor for projects within the Cedar Bayou watershed. During this presentation, we'll give a brief overview of this project, but before we get into project specifics, we want to share some information about the Flood Control District. The Harris County Flood Control District is a special purpose district created by the Texas legislature in 1937 in response to devastating floods that hit the Houston area in 1929 and 1935. The Flood Control District is governed by the Harris County Commissioners Court and works closely with other entities in our region, such as the Harris County Engineering Department and the City of Houston. The organization was created in part to serve as a local partner to leverage federal funding for flood damage reduction projects. Our mission has expanded since our founding, leading to billions of dollars in federal, state, and locally funded infrastructure improvements in the ground. The mission of the Harris County Flood Control District is to provide flood damage reduction projects that work with the appropriate regard for community and natural values. One of the most difficult challenges we face is constructing effective projects that are sensitive to community and natural values in a highly urbanized area. Harris County includes 22 main watersheds, totaling approximately 1,800 square miles and more than 2,500 linear miles of channel. 2,500 miles is approximately the distance from New York to California. A watershed is a geographical region of land that drains to a common channel or outlet. Each watershed has its own unique characteristics and needs. The project we're presenting tonight is in the Cedar Bayou watershed, which is located in East Harris County. So, why is Harris County flood prone? Well, some of the reasons are that the county is prone to extreme rainfall, including tropical storms and hurricanes. We have flat, slow draining landscape, and we have clay soils that do not soak up excess rainfall quickly. While the Flood Control District plays a critical role in flood risk reduction, we are one of several entities involved in these efforts in our region. When rain falls on your roof, it flows through several jurisdictions, such as streets and drains managed by Harris County Engineering Department, a municipal utility district, or a city, such as the City of Houston, before it flows into a larger channel, creek, or bayou that the Flood Control District owns and maintains. This slide illustrates the various jurisdictions, which sometimes we even share with other entities. Inside neighborhoods, as shown on the left side of this illustration, storm sewers and roadside ditches collect stormwater runoff and start the process of moving it away from streets and homes. Storm sewers and roadside ditches are the responsibility of the underlying municipality. The larger bayous and channels that take the collected stormwater and move it through our drainage system to Galveston Bay are the responsibility of the Flood Control District. This is shown on the right side of the illustration. In the middle, a stormwater detention basin is sometimes constructed by the flood control district. When storm sewers on the left are increased, this creates an increase in runoff. And since it's our policy to avoid impacts to properties downstream, detention basins help to safely take in and temporarily store that excess stormwater during heavy rainfall events. Often, we partner with Harris County precincts, utility districts, and others to add recreational amenities such as trails to these basins and along our channels. On August 25th, 2018, Harris County voters approved a $2.5 billion bond fund for flood risk reduction projects. This vote followed a series of meetings across Harris County in each watershed, which resulted in a list of what is now 181 bond projects. As of August 25th, 2021, every project included in the 2018 bond program has been initiated, including 8 of the projects in the Cedar Bayou watershed. A total of more than $1.35 billion in partnership funding has also been secured so far to stretch the 2018 bond program even further. The actual timing of each individual project will depend on a variety of factors, including environmental permitting, right-of-way acquisition, utility relocation, and in some cases, requirements of a particular grant. That said, project lists and projected schedules are updated regularly on our website. While the bond was for $2.5 billion, the full cost of every project in the bond tables is almost $5 billion. So we made it clear from the outset that we would need funding to fully construct the project in the bond, fully project the projects in the bond program. As I mentioned, we've had some success so far, having secured more than $1.35 billion in partner funds. Now, this graphic illustrates the many sources of those partnerships, including federal, state, and local funding that the Flood Control District is working to secure for Harris County. Each agency has its own definition of eligible projects and its own requirements for local match funding. So the Flood Control District works diligently to match projects to the right partnership opportunities. With that bond overview in mind, let's move into the part of the program that is specifically about the PER for the Cedar Bayou tributaries Q134 and Q134-01. Now, some of you may have attended the first public meeting that was held in April of last year. And at that time, we were early in the PER process. We had some initial information, but much of that discussion was focused on the advanced feasibility study that was completed in 2020, which included an evaluation of several flood reduction project options. Since then, the Flood Control District and the study team have completed various preliminary engineering tasks, including hydrology and hydraulics modeling and analysis, identification of right-of-way needs, topographic surveying, environmental assessments, geotechnical engineering, subsurface utility engineering, and we've coordinated with other agencies to ensure the project's success. Now, this work has been focused on developing the recommended project that came out of the advanced feasibility study. That detailed evaluation has culminated in this PER, which includes all the relevant information needed to move this project toward design and construction. A draft PER has been submitted to both Harris County Flood Control and the bond implementation team and is now under review. With that in mind, I'd like to provide a little bit of background on the project we're discussing tonight. This slide shows the vicinity map for the Q134 project area. Q134 is an unnamed tributary to Cedar Bayou, which is the easternmost watershed in Harris County. You can see the Q134 subwatershed on the in the inset on the left. The Q134 channel is shown in dark red, and the Cedar Bayou channel is shown off to the right, which is outside the Q134 subwatershed. Tributary Q134 sits just west of the Cedar Bayou main stem and is located between its upper limit at FM 2100 and its confluence, which is where the Q134 tributary meets with Cedar Bayou. This Q134 subwatershed is approximately 5.2 square miles in area, with about 4.8 miles of drainage channels conveying stormwater into Cedar Bayou. The Forest Manor subdivision is situated south of the channel at the western end of the subwatershed. A subtributary, Q134-01, splits north about halfway up the Q134 channel, crosses FM 1960 in the Huffman area, and ends at Huffman Eastgate Road. As with much of our region, the Q134 subwatershed has a history of storm events that produce heavy rains and cause frequent flooding. Now, as I mentioned a moment ago, an advanced feasibility study of the Q134 subwatershed was performed in 2020. And what came out of the advanced feasibility study was a long-term approach to improving the drainage within the Q134 subwatershed. This long-term or ultimate solution is considered the complete flood reduction solution and will provide the highest level of flow protection. The ultimate solution includes the following mitigation measures. Development of a regional detention basin with approximately 1,051 acre-feet of stormwater detention storage. The deepening and widening of portions of Q134 and Q134-01 channels to improve stormwater carrying capacity. Improving the crossings at 3rd Street, FN 1960, the Union Pacific Railroad, and Ramsey North Road, and building a new channel that runs along the east side of Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace neighborhoods. The estimated cost for the ultimate solution is approximately $49.1 million. However, the current bond budget for the Q134 project is $22 million, which is why the project will be phased. Today, I'll be talking about the first phase of the project, which is funded by the flood bond that I discussed a few minutes ago. Now, before we get into the details of the PER, I want to take a few minutes to cover some of the terms we're going to be using. Some of you may be familiar with the terminology, but I think it's going to be beneficial to provide a quick review for clarity. Throughout the presentation, we'll be using terms like 25-year or 500-year. I want to clarify what that means. A 4% annual chance or 25-year event is a rainfall event that has a 4% or 1 in 25 chance of occurring in any given year. That doesn't mean that if we have a 4% annual chance event today that we're good for another 25 years. It's simply a measure of the expected frequency based on the historical data that we have. By the same token, a 0.2% annual chance or 500-year event is a rainfall event that has a 0.2% or 1 in 500 chance of occurring in any given year. Terms like 10-year and 100-year follow that same pattern. I also want to go over some flood reduction strategy terms. When I talk about channel modifications, I'm referring to an alteration of a channel with the intent of providing additional stormwater carrying capacity. This could be enlarging the channel, could be improving the channel efficiency by reducing vegetation, or a combination of both. Storage improvements refer to the creation of volume specifically for the purpose of collecting and temporarily holding stormwater. In other words, stormwater detention. The Flood Control District has constructed and maintains numerous regional detention facilities. Finally, the term mitigation refers to the offsetting of the impacts of one action with another. An example is building stormwater detention to offset downstream flooding that could result from channel modifications upstream. Now, since we just touched on the stormwater detention, I want to give you an idea of how much detention is planned for this area. A standard football field is just about 1 acre in size. Now think of that football field covered with 1 foot of standing water. That volume of water is 1 acre-foot. Now, as we mentioned just a moment ago, the ultimate solution recommends 1,051 acre-feet of storage to be constructed over several phases. Since 1 acre-foot is equivalent to a little less than 326,000 gallons of water, we expect approximately 342 million gallons of stormwater storage within the ultimate Q134 detention basin. For the current bond-funded project, we're recommending 246 acre-feet, or about 80 million gallons of storage. Let's talk a little bit about stormwater detention and how it provides flood reduction. There are 2 things that we can do with stormwater to help reduce the flood risk in a given area. We can move stormwater more quickly by channel modifications, or we can store it in a stormwater detention basin. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the 2020 feasibility study identified a stormwater detention basin as one of the primary recommendations for the Q134 subwatershed. A stormwater detention basin stores excess stormwater until it can make its way safely back into the channel. There are several ways that stormwater will fill the detention basin, but the proposed inflow and outflow structures for this project are passive designs that utilize gravity to operate. The illustration shows water overflowing into a stormwater detention basin from a bayou by way of a weir structure. A weir is a concrete or earthen structure with a specified elevation and dimensions that allow the desired amount of flow into the detention basin. As the water levels in the bayou recede, the stormwater in the detention basin flows by gravity through the outfall pipe and back into the channel, and then ultimately into Galveston Bay. The Flood Control District typically constructs 2 types of stormwater detention basins: wet bottom basins and dry bottom basins. Both types of basins fill up during heavy rain events and then drain into as the receiving channel recedes. The difference is that one has a permanent pool of water and one has a dry, grassy bottom. A wet bottom basin, which is what we're recommending for this project, typically has a permanent pool of water and can provide habitat for a variety of wildlife, as well as other water quality benefits. A dry bottom basin, on the other hand, has no permanent pool. It will fill up during a heavy rainfall event and then completely drain out once the storm has passed. It can provide the opportunities for recreational amenities such as sports fields or parks. The Flood Control District often partners with Harris County and local cities to build these amenities. Now let's turn to the specific bond-funded flood reduction project that we're discussing tonight. As I mentioned before, the Flood Control District owns approximately 286 acres within the Q134 subwatershed. This property is bordered by FM 1960 to the north, Q134-01 tributary to the east, Q134 to the south, and FM 2100 to the west. The Phase 1 detention basin will provide a 25-year level of service with a detention storage capacity of 246 acre-feet. So, if you recall the acre-feet graphic we just looked at, that storage capacity would cover approximately 246 football fields with 1 foot of water. The proposed basin will be a wet bottom basin that utilizes approximately 45 of the 286 acres owned by the Flood Control District. The maximum expected depth in the pond is approximately 13.5 feet, with roughly 7 feet of that comprising the permanent pool. This pool depth is necessary to maintain a healthy stormwater detention basin. However, as I previously alluded to, the current bond project is only the beginning. There are a total of 4 phases planned for a total of 1,051 acre-feet of storage, so the Flood Control District will be fully utilized over time. Now let's take a look at some of the design features of a wet bottom basin. Per the Flood Control District's design criteria, wet bottom basins are required to maintain a water depth of 3 to 8 feet above the bottom of the basin. This is also known as the permanent pool. This pool allows sediments within the stormwater to settle to the bottom of the basin, improving the water quality that is discharged back into the Q134 tributary. The stormwater detention basin for Q134 is proposed to maintain a permanent pool elevation of 59 feet, which is approximately 7 feet above the bottom of the detention basin. Another feature of the Flood Control District's wet bottom basin is a vegetative shelf within the basin. By planting native vegetation around the permanent pool, this vegetative shelf provides bank stability around the detention basin and assists in the removal of contaminants that are often picked up by stormwater. In addition, this detention basin will have a 30-foot maintenance berm, which is a designed area of land around the perimeter to provide the Flood Control District access to the facility for upkeep, maintenance, and repairs. To better understand how this project works, I want to quickly share how this detention basin is going to interact with the contributing tributaries during a storm event. During rainfall events, stormwater is going to drain south from the Huffman area via Q134-01 and east from the Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivisions and FM 2100 via Q134. Now, as that water depth in the tributaries rises, the detention basin will begin to capture stormwater through a 20-foot weir structure along Q134 and a 40-foot weir structure along Q134-01. I talked a little bit about what a weir was a few slides back. This basin will store the stormwater diverted into the detention basin over a period of time until the flow elevations in Q134 are reduced. At that point, the detention basin will reintroduce the stormwater into Q134 via a concrete box culvert outfall structure. By holding the stormwater in the detention basin and letting it out slowly, we can reduce flows and flood elevations downstream and mitigate any negative impacts from current or future channel modifications. There are several complementary efforts that are happening parallel to this PER. The first of these efforts include drainage improvements to the Forest Manor area. The Harris County Engineering Department's Recovery and Resiliency Division, or RRD, is currently designing drainage improvements within the Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivisions. We will refer to this area collectively as the Forest Manor area. The Q134 project team has been coordinating with the Forest Manor team to develop drainage improvements that meet the flood reduction needs within these neighborhoods, while also ensuring efficient use of the available bond funds. The drainage project includes ditch and storm sewer improvements within the Forest Manor area to help improve the local drainage. In addition to the cost savings on the detention, coordination with the Forest Manor drainage project has allowed the Flood Control District to postpone constructing a new channel along the eastern edge of the Forest Manor area that was originally proposed in the 2020 Advanced Feasibility Study. The Forest Manor Drainage Project is set to start construction in early 2022 and be completed by the summer of 2022. Another important effort that's currently underway is the execution of an excavation and removal, or E&R, contract. The E&R effort will allow a specific contractor to excavate soil and remove it from the Flood Control District-owned site for their use. This contract will allow the contractor to remove up to 87,000 cubic yards of soil from the detention basin. It's estimated that this could reduce the overall construction costs of the proposed stormwater detention basin by as much as $1.25 million. The Flood Control District is working on engaging a contractor for an E&R based on the completed design. Finally, the study team has coordinated and is continuing to coordinate with various agencies to ensure project success. These include Harris County Precinct 2, the Harris County Engineering Department, TxDOT for site access from 2100, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for environmental clearances, and the Texas Historical Commission for cultural clearances. This coordination will help move the project into the design and construction phases as smoothly as possible. Now, as previously mentioned, this PER is the first phase of a long-term approach to building out drainage improvements within the Q134 subwatershed. The project's immediate benefits include reducing the amount of flow entering Q134 and ultimately Cedar Bayou during major storm events. It'll remove inundation from up to 4 structures and 17 acres during the 0.2% annual chance event. The ultimate project will remove inundation from up to 37 structures for the 0.2% annual chance event. These numbers do not include structures with flooding removed within the Forest Manor area that would result from those drainage improvements. But the Q134 project will facilitate that project by providing the detention space required for the Forest Manor drainage project to construct drainage improvements within that Forest Manor area. This project will create a regional detention basin that will allow the Flood Control District to implement future drainage improvement projects to reach the proposed ultimate solution. The estimated cost of this project is $22 million, which includes costs for engineering, right-of-way, and construction. So, where do we go from here? The last thing I want to touch on are the next steps. Comments from this meeting will be considered and incorporated into the PER for this project as appropriate. In the next few months, the preliminary engineering report will be completed and sent to the Harris County Commissioners Court for their approval. Once the preliminary engineering report is approved, the project will move into the final design, which will take about a year. After the final design is approved, the project will go out for bid and construction will begin. This is expected to start in early 2023. As we work towards completing the final design, there are 2 separate construction projects that will be occurring within the Q134 subwatershed. To help minimize the construction costs associated with the excavating the basin, the Flood Control District is currently in the process of executing an E&R contract. The Flood Control District is working on engaging a contractor for the E&R based on the completed design. Once the E&R contract is executed, the contractor will perform work on site until the construction phase begins for the Q134 stormwater detention basin. As previously mentioned, the Harris County Engineering Department's RRD division is designing drainage improvements within the Forest Manor area. The construction of these improvements is scheduled to begin in spring of 2022. Lastly, I want to remind everyone that the project that we're presenting today is the first phase of a long-term solution aimed at improving the drainage within the Q134 subwatershed. As funding becomes available, we'll continue to expand the detention basin, fully utilizing the flood control-owned property, and to improve the adjacent and upstream ditches and culverts. Additionally, future community engagement meetings will be scheduled once we move into the design stage of this project. As new information becomes available, we'll update the project webpage, so please check back every few weeks. I'll now turn the conversation back over to Sheldra to kick off the Q&A portion.
Thank you, Terry. Before we get to the Q&A portion, I'd like to share a quick reminder that we would love to hear from you on this and other projects moving forward across Harris County. To learn more about this project, ask questions, and to sign up for our mailing list, please visit hcfcd.org/F45. As a reminder, there are 3 ways you can submit a comment about this project during tonight's session. Submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. submit a comment on the Flow Control District's website at hcfcd.org/F45, or submit a comment via phone at 855-925-2801. You'll utilize meeting code 4022. And if you are joining us via phone tonight, please press *6 to leave a message. Additionally, I want to reiterate that any questions not addressed during tonight's Q&A will receive a response from the Flow Control District following the event. Information from this meeting, as well as a recording of the live stream, will be available on the Flow Control District's website, and you can also find that on our YouTube channel. Joining Terry for our Q&A session tonight is Dina Green, Planning Division Manager, Shen He, Project Manager, and Glenn Dunlap, Project Manager with Harris County Engineering's Recovery and Resiliency Division, who are overseeing efforts on this project. Now it's time to take some of your questions. Our first question will be for Terry. Terry, Larry is asking, is the detention basin located east or west of FM 2100 near Huffman, and will it drain toward Lake Houston?
Sure. So the detention basin is actually located to the east of FM 2100, and it will drain into Cedar Bayou, which goes directly into Galveston Bay. So no, it won't be going to Lake Houston.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Next question is for Shen. This question is asking, what is the current stage of the project?
Yes, this project is currently undergoing the preliminary engineer report, PER stage, and a conceptual design stage. The effort will result in more detailed recommendations for phase 1 drainage improvements and an implementation strategy for constructions within the channel numbered Q134-00 and Q134-01.
Okay, thank you, Shen. Let's see, next question for Dina. What is the difference between a wet and a dry bottom stormwater detention basin?
Okay, thanks, Sheldra. Amy, great slide to pull up. So I'd like to stress that both a wet and a dry bottom stormwater detention basin both function pretty much the same during a storm event. They provide a lot of extra storage where we can kind of park that stormwater and store it while the receiving channel drains water away from the area. And when water surface elevations start to go down in that receiving channel, then water that's being held in these stormwater detention basins will eventually drain out into the channel. And where you start really noticing a difference between a dry bottom and a wet bottom stormwater detention basin is during those times when they're not being used to hold stormwater. So really when we've had good weather out, not during a rain event, just definitely when you can see the difference between the two. And it's just like the name sounds. If you look on the left of the screen, you'll see there's a big open area that's covered in grass, and that would be what we call a dry bottom detention basin. When the stormwater drains out of that basin, it's dry, it's just grass covered. And then the picture you see on the right of your screen, it's an example of what we would call a wet bottom stormwater detention basin. And it has that permanent pool in the bottom of the basin. And if we're able to construct a wet bottom detention basin, a lot of times we can put in different types of plantings that can really help with stormwater quality improvements. And it also provides a variety of habitat for different types of wildlife in the area as well. Both of them, though, have an opportunity to provide green space or open space for the communities nearby as well. Thanks.
Thank you, Dina. Terry, next question is for you. What will this project accomplish?
Right, so when the project's complete, the drainage improvements will reduce flooding in the subwatershed, and they're going to help to contain that flow within those channels for your frequent storm events. In addition to that, the drainage improvements are going to help the Forest Manor drainage improvements. So that's Forest Manor and the Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivision. We're going to help kind of facilitate that project to help the local drainage improvements within those two neighborhoods. As far as benefits, I mean, there's a lot going on here. Obviously, we're going to be constructing the first phase, which is a 45-acre regional detention basin. So that's going to provide about 80 million gallons of storage. So you're going to see some benefits in that. You'll see some reduction in inundated area, some structures that are currently susceptible to flooding now. We're going to be improving that. And then, of course, it will facilitate the longer term project, which is to complete, the full 1,050 plus acre feet and really help provide relief to several, numerous structures in that area. I think it's something like 37 structures in the area. But this particular project really sets the stage to move the ultimate solution forward. We have to get this detention basin started in place so that as we start to move to future phases and improve the channels, that we can provide the mitigation that we need to ensure that we don't create a negative impact downstream.
Thank you, Terry. All right, as a reminder, just want to let folks at home know how they can reach out to us this evening. So this is how you can submit a comment during tonight's session. There are 3 ways. You can submit a comment on this site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on the Flood Control District's website, hcfcd.org/F45, or you can submit a comment via phone, and that number is 855-925-2801. When you call, you'll want to utilize the meeting code 4022. And if you are joining us via phone tonight, remember to press *6 and you can leave us a message. And any questions that we're not able to answer tonight, during tonight's Q&A, you will get a response from the Flood Control District following the close of the comment period. And we will now get back to some of your questions. Next question will be for Shin. And that question is, what is the timeline of this project?
Yes, once the current PR preliminary engineering report is approved in the next few months, about fall to winter 2021, the projects will move into the final design phase, which will last about a year. And once the final design is approved, and the construction will begin after it is bid and awarded to a construction firm. This is expected to begin in early 2023.
Thank you, Shen. Next question we have is for Glenn. And let's see, when will we see the completion of the Forest Manor stormwater drainage improvements, and will the project keep us from flooding?
Work within the Forest Manor subdivisions expected to start April 2022, and our completion is October 2022. So pretty quick turnaround on the construction within the subdivision. And the purpose of it is going to be to get the water out of the subdivision in the flood control channel quicker. So it'll help reduce the impacts and the likelihood of flooding within the neighborhood.
Thank you, Glenn. Terry, would you be able to go back over the funding for this project, please?
Certainly. So this project is funded entirely by the Harris County Flood Control Bond. It is one of several projects in the watershed, and the budget for this particular project is $22 million. And so that $22 million will cover the construction of the detention basin, as well as all the engineering, the right-of-way needs that are associated with the project.
All right, thank you, Terry. I have some information here for folks wondering how you can stay informed on the project of this, the progress of this project. And a couple of ways you can do that. You can visit the project website and join the mailing list. And that address is hcfcd.org/F45. You can contact us directly, 346-286-4000. And you can also attend public meetings and open houses that are held in your area that are listed on your community calendar. And then as the materials from this evening's presentation will be available to you as well. And you can also go back and rewatch anything that's presented here tonight. That'll be on our website and our YouTube channel. Shen, next question will be for you. Let's see. What is the next stage of this project and what does that entail?
So like earlier I mentioned, the next stage will be the final design, which will refine the, since right now we only have the concept design level, and we will finalize that design and also do some additional investigation related to geotechnical, roadway, utility, and environmental. So that will take about a year to complete, which intended to finish early 2022.
Thank you, Shan. Let's see, Terry, we may have had some folks join us a little bit late. So would you mind going back over a few of the slides that are project specific?
Certainly. Let's see, which ones we want to start with.
Lots to choose from.
No, we can, I guess we could start back kind of right around where we start talking about the PER specifically. How about 19, where we start to kind of talk about this specific project? Will that work?
That's perfect.
Great. Okay. Right. So the Flood Control District owns in this watershed about 286 acres. And so the property, in case you didn't catch the first time, is located kind of roughly between Q134 to the Q134-01 east, Q134-01 to the east, sorry, Q134 to the south, FM 2100 to the west, and 1960 to the north. And that is the site where we're placing the detention basin. So phase one is going to provide about a 25-year level of service with a storage capacity of about 246 acre feet. And so that, going back to some of the earlier discussion we had, that's about 246 football fields with 1 foot of water on top of it. That's a pretty, substantial amount. The maximum expected depth in the pond is about 13.5 feet. 7 feet of that is the permanent pool. And if you heard earlier, Dina kind of talk about the different detention basins. This is a wet bottom basin. So that pool is necessary to make sure we maintain the health of the detention basin. So like I said, the current bond project is only the beginning. That this 45 acres is only the first part. There's 4 phases here that we're planning for about 1,051 acre feet of storage. So eventually the flood control district property is going to be fully utilized. Some of the features of this particular wet bottom basin, per the district's manual, the criteria manual, we have to have between 3 and 8 feet of permanent pool elevation above the bottom of the basin. And this pool is going to allow the sediments within the stormwater to settle to the bottom of the basin and improve the water quality that we put back into the Q134 tributaries. The stormwater detention basin for this project is proposed to maintain a permanent pool elevation of 59 feet, which is about 7 feet above the bottom of the detention basin. Another feature is a vegetative shelf within the basin. And by planting native vegetation around the permanent pool, the vegetative shelf will provide bank stability around the detention basin and assist in the removal of contaminants that get picked up by stormwater. In addition, our detention basin will have a 30-foot maintenance berm, which is per the criteria. And that maintenance berm is a designated area around the perimeter of the flood control district basin that helps with upkeep, maintenance, and repairs to make sure that the district has access to handle those functions. So to better understand how this project is going to work, I want to talk, I guess, briefly about how the basin is going to interact with the contributing tributaries. During heavy rainfall events, stormwater is going to drain south from the Huffman area via Q134-01 and east from the Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivisions, as well as FM 2100 via Q134 from the west. And as the water depth in these tributaries gets up, the detention basin is going to start to capture that stormwater through a 20-foot weir structure along Q134 and a 40-foot weir structure along Q134-01. Now, the weir structure is either, in this case, either earthen or concrete structure, but a weir basically has a defined elevation and dimensions that are going to allow a predetermined amount of flow to enter the basin so that we could store the correct amount. And this basin is going to store that stormwater that's been diverted into the basin over a period of time until the flow elevations within the Q134 tributaries are reduced to the desired level. And at that point, the detention basin is going to reintroduce this stormwater into Q134 via a concrete box culvert outfall structure. So You've all seen culverts before. It'll be similar to that, where we have culverts that allow stormwater to move back into the basin. And by holding that stormwater in the detention basin and letting it out slowly, we can reduce the flows that go into Cedar Bayou and the water surface elevations as well. And that'll help to mitigate any negative impacts that we create from the current or future channel modifications. We're also doing several complementary efforts. One of those is, as we talked about, the Harris County RRD's project in the Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivisions. So we're working on drainage improvements, or RRD's working on drainage improvements in those areas. And we're coordinating with them to help facilitate the detention. And so we've been coordinating with them to work on that detention, and their project is really going to focus on drainage improvements, ditch and storm sewer improvements within the Forest Manor area. By facilitating the detention, we're providing cost savings. And also that coordination has allowed us to postpone the construction of a channel that was originally proposed along the east side of the Forest Manor area. So this coordination has helped save money by moving that project later on down the line. As Glenn mentioned, their project's supposed to start in April of 2022 and be completed by October 2022. We're also working on an excavation removal contract, which is going to allow a contractor to come in advance of the construction phase and excavate soil from the flood control district owned site. And by doing that, by allowing that contractor to come in and excavate what we're calculating as up to 87,000 cubic yards of soil, we think we can reduce the construction cost by about $1.25 million for the detention basin. And so the district is working on engaging a contractor for that ENR based on the design right now. And of course, we've been coordinating with Harris County Precinct 2, Harris County Engineering, TxDOT, the Corps of Engineers, and the Texas Historical Commission. And that coordination is going to help us ensure that we can move into the design and construction phases as smoothly as possible. So, from the benefit side, this PER is really just the first phase of our long-term approach to building out the improvements within the Q134 sub-watershed. But as far as immediate benefits, certainly we're going to help reduce the amount of flow that enters Q134 and then ultimately Cedar Bayou after this detention basin, this phase 1 detention basin is complete. We should be able to remove inundation from up to 4 structures and 17 acres for the 0.2% annual chance event. If you'll remember the terminology discussion earlier, that's a 500-year event. Ultimately, the project, as we complete out the detention basin and other improvements, we think the project will remove inundation from up to 37 structures for that 0.2% annual chance event. And again, these numbers don't include all the improvements that we think we'll see in the Forest Manor subdivision. We won't claim credit for their improvements, but we are working together to facilitate that project so that, obviously we see flood reduction in the Forest Manor area, and then we're capturing that stormwater and mitigating any increases from their improvements so that we don't see adverse impacts downstream. And as I said, the project is going to cost $22 million and it's funded by the bond. So next steps, just to kind of go back through, obviously we're going to be listening to your comments and feedback from this meeting, and we'll be incorporating those into the PER as appropriate. We're going to be completing the PER in the next few months, and then it'll go to the Commissioner's Court for their approval. And once that PER is approved, then we can move to that final design stage, which we expect to take about a year. After the final design is approved, the project's going to go out for bid, and then construction can begin, which we expect to start in early 2023. So, as we work towards completing those designs, again, we're going to be working through the ENR. We're going to be continuing to coordinate, and we're going to be communicating with the Forest Manor Drainage Project, which is set to start within the next half a year, I guess 6 months. So.
Thank you, Terry. It's good to recap that in case we had some folks join us a little bit late. For those of you who are just joining us, do want to remind you, still have a couple more minutes left, so you still have time to get your comments or questions in for tonight's session, and you can submit a comment on the site in the box near the presentation live stream. You can submit a comment on our website, and you can also submit a comment via phone. That number is 855-925-2801. Remember to use the meeting code 4022. And if you're joining us by phone tonight, press *6 to leave a message. We'll try to get to all of your questions tonight. Those that we're not able to answer, someone will follow up with you following the close of the comment period. And again, a live stream or a version of tonight's presentation will be made available on our website, and you'll be able to find that on our YouTube channel as well. And we'll also include tonight's meeting materials for your viewing. Next question will be for Shen. No, I'm sorry, wait. Next question will be for Terry. There we go. Shen, I was trying to give you the same question that we've already asked you a couple of times, so I'm going to skip that one. Terry, we received a good question asking what other projects are happening nearby or alongside this one?
Okay, well, there's a couple things that are going on in the kind of the general area. Obviously, one of the ones we've touched on as part of this presentation are the improvements in the Forest Manor area, which are a big part of helping the flooding within the subwatershed. That's one of the neighborhoods that's seen some flooding historically. So we're excited about being able to help RRD facilitate that project. There are future phases that we're talking about for the Q134 project. There's also a couple of other bond projects that are going to be moving forward in the next few months, hopefully. And that is the Q136 PER project, which should be starting hopefully probably early next year, as well as a bond project along the main stem of Cedar Bayou, which is kind of further upstream of FM 1960, which is looking at significant amount of detention up there. And all these projects are working together to sort of help improve flooding along the entire Cedar Bayou, throughout the whole Cedar Bayou watershed. But in particular, these three should really go a long way toward reducing the flooding in the Huffman area and Forest Manor area, and then further downstream as well.
Thank you, Terry. Okay, Shen, I have your question now. Why does this area flood?
Sure. So as Harris County region, we always are facing flooding issues. And obviously, we got a lot of intense rainfall. And the other major factors, I think, is we have a relative flat land, and also the soil type. We got most of the clay soil, which doesn't provide a lot of infiltrations. And these flooding issues have become more apparent when combined with intense populations and developments in our region. And so our interested area, the Q134 and Q134-01 tributaries have experienced historical flooding due to the limited storm conveyance capacity, and as well as the potential for the overflow from the Cedar Bayou main stem during the major rainfall events.
Thank you, Shen. Next question will be for Dina. What type of stormwater detention basin is included in this project?
Okay, sure. This will be a wet bottom detention basin. So you can expect to see that permanent pool constructed as part of both our phase 1 detention basin and then that long-term sort of ultimate detention basin that flood control will be building out in future phases.
Thank you, Dina. Terry, what is the status of the stormwater detention basin as it relates to channel improvements?
So this current phase really is focusing on the detention basin itself. There are several phases to this overall project. It's not just the detention basin that's phased, it's also some of the channel improvements. So, as we looked at the ultimate solution, it included, channel modifications to Q134, channel modifications to Q134, a new channel that kind of runs north-south along the eastern side of that Forest Manor and Lake Houston Woodland Terrace subdivision. All those components go into the ultimate solution. However, like I said, the budget for that is $49+ million, and we only have 22. So this first phase is really focusing on the detention basin. That detention basin will facilitate those future projects, those channel projects, as more money becomes available. The reason we do the detention basin first is because if we improve the channels, if we make modifications to those channels and improve that carrying capacity, what we're going to end up doing is allowing more flow to move more quickly downstream. If we don't provide the detention to mitigate that, we're going to end up causing a negative impact downstream, and that's against flood control district's policy. So, if we went ahead and did the channel improvements, we would have to provide some level of detention anyway, and there just isn't money in the budget to do it all at once. So, the next phase, I believe the next phase could include some of those channel modifications, but for now, the detention basin is the focus.
Thank you, Terry. Douglas is asking, what are the locations for the 37 structures referred to earlier, Terry?
So I don't have the specific locations in front of me. Some of them are very likely going to be north of 1960 in that Huffman area where you see a concentration of businesses and homes. And I think there's some that are a little further to the east along 1960. And some of them, I believe, that are counted are right kind of at the edge of the Q134 channel, along right in that southern kind of, I guess, the northern part of Forest Manor. If there are kind of a specific question about is my particular house one of those, that's something that we could maybe discuss offline, but I don't have the specific structures in front of me, so I can't speak to the exact answer right now. But please feel free to message us and we'll see if we can't get a more specific answer for you.
Good deal. Thank you, Terry. Okay, just want to let folks know, a quick reminder too, how you can stay informed about the progress of this project. You can visit the project website and you can join the mailing list, hcfcd.org/F45, or you can contact us directly at 346-286-4000, or you can email communications@hcfcd.org, hctx.net. There you go. Yeah, you're not going to remember that with me reading it. It's a lot. Or you can also attend public meetings or open houses in your area that are listed on your community calendar. Well, I do think we have taken all of the questions that we've received so far tonight, so we're going to go ahead and wrap up. I do want to thank Terry, Dina, Shin, and Glenn for being available to teach us about this project and to answer your questions. With that, I'd like to share one final reminder that we're continuing to accept comments and feedback on this project through October 21st. We also encourage everyone to, of course, get flood insurance as flood season in Harris County runs year round. We like to say that every time we get a chance. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, and thanks for all of your engagement in this project. We look forward to continuing to share updates as our work moves forward. Stay safe.